With just 78 days to this year's presidential and parliamentary elections, all is set for a showdown on December 7 as MPP secures #1 spot on the 2024 ballot and the NDC lands on #8 as several disqualified presidential candidates tear into the Jane Mensah-led Electoral Commission for what they describe as lack of clarity for their disqualifications.
How is it a case that I will be there and media houses and other people will now be telling me a decision of the Electoral Commission concerning myself without my knowledge?
We'll bring you more details because the Progressive People's Party has threatened legal action against the Electoral Commission for disqualifying them without a basis. Also coming up, deadlock hits Democracy Hub's planned protest. With just hours to the protest, we'll take you live to a press conference by the police where the police has been explaining their decision.
The organizers, however, refused all these proposed locations, and so regrettably, no agreement was reached.
We are left with no choice but to revert to our original plan.
Also coming up tonight, staff of VRA are warning of high electricity tariffs for consumers if Ghana Hydro Authority bill passes into law, as they call for immediate withdrawal of the bill. Now, deadlock between the Ghana Police Service and Democracy Hub with just hours to the planned protest. After a series of Friday meetings, both sides failed to reach a resolution. While the police insist on enforcing a court injunction against the demonstration, Democracy Hub remains adamant, vowing to proceed with their 3-day protest at Revolution Square here in Accra. Michael Ashley has more in the following report.
Democracy Hub, organizers of the Fix the Country protest, is on a collision course with the Ghana Police Service with barely 12 hours to the planned protest. The Ghana Police Service in an earlier news conference said the organizers of the protest refused alternative locations proposed by the Ghana Police Service.
Upon our security assessment, holding the demonstration in any of the locations proposed by the organizers will endanger public defense, public order, public safety, public health. Police therefore suggested some locations to them for consideration, 7 locations in all. The organizers, however, refused all these proposed locations, and so regrettably, no agreement was reached.
The police says they have also picked intelligence that some demonstrators are planning to cause mayhem.
Intelligence so far gathered by the police regarding the planned demonstration suggests that some demonstrators are planning to engage in the following acts that have the potential to jeopardize the peace, security, law, and order in the country. And some of the activities are defying the order of the courts pertaining to the demonstration, and also defying all directions from the police which are in line with the Public Order Act. Wielding of weapons and wearing of bulletproof vests and helmets, attacking members of parliament and other state officials, attacking police officers in the discharge of their duties, attacking critical installations including the seat of government and electric power installations. We would like to call on the organizers of the protest to caution their members against these unlawful acts.
But organizers of the demonstration says they are unhappy with the posture of the police. They accuse the police of intentionally trying to infringe on their constitutional rights to protest.
Such broad restrictions are unconstitutional and violate our right to peaceful assembly. The police, however, refused to provide a copy of the affidavit
The organizers say they will go ahead with their planned demonstration despite the opposition from the Ghana Police Service. Additionally, they say they will go ahead and hold the protest as originally planned, that is at the Revolutionary Square.
Despite this reasonable compromise, the police rejected all our proposals. Given the refusal of the police to cooperate meaningfully and provide viable alternatives, we are left with no choice but to revert to our original plan of holding the demonstration at Revolutionary Square.
The group has also denied allegations by the Ghana Police Service that some of their members plan to cause mayhem.
There has been no record of misbehavior with our protests. So if the police is making this claim, on which grounds they are taking their posturing, then we don't share in that.
At least both parties say they are committed to holding some more talks just before the planned demonstration goes ahead. It remains to be seen what really will happen on Saturday when both parties meet on the grounds. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
Chairman of the Senior Staff Association of the Volta River Authority, VRA, Theophilus Tete, is warning of serious repercussions for electricity consumers if the Ghana Hydro Authority bill is passed. The government is seeking parliamentary approval to establish separate authorities for hydro and thermal power generation in the country. But during a protest in Accra, Mr. Tete told JoyNews that the real motive behind the bill is to sell off the VRA to private power producers, a move he argues will harm consumers. Carlos Caloni reports.
Tensions run high at the Volta River Authority, the VRA headquarters in Accra, as staff flooded the streets in red and black, voicing their strong opposition to the proposed Ghana Hydro Authority bill. The bill aims to merge the VRA with other entities, a move the staff fiercely reject. Speaking to Joy News, Senior Staff Association Chairman Theophilus Tete described the bill as a deliberate attempt by the government to privatize the VRA and hand it over to private sector players.
We know the modus operandi of this. There was a committee that was set up by the Ministry of Energy to look at the technical feasibility of all this. The committee was clear in their recommendations to the ministry. And even the terms of reference to the committee is to create a thermal authority out of Volta River Authority and eventually sell it off. So it's not that we are saying it, but it is one of the major terms of reference given. So the authorities that you are seeing being created, or it's going to be created out of this bill, is to create that thermal authority to allow the thermal part of it to go. So it's clear, because that is the reasons why all these things have been done. It's a clear attempt to sell the state assets to private persons.
Mr. Tete, however, warned of severe consequences for electricity consumers in the country if the bill is not withdrawn.
Currently, even like I said, we have 50% and 50% states, that's the IPPs and out of the states. And the IPPs are pay what we call take or pay. Even if their plants are shut down and they are not running, ECG will have to pay them. In the case of VR, it's take and pay. So what it means is that what you produce onto the system is what you be paid for. If your plant is down and it's idle, nobody pays you for that. And that is even a cost to the consumer. If we go to that end, what it means is that you'll be paying for power that you have not consumed. And the effect will be on the Ghanaian consumer and the businesses that we have in this country.
Meanwhile, Chairman of VRA's Senior Staff Association in Accra, Samuel Aban, questioned why the VRA is being labeled inefficient. He argued that instead of selling off the authority under the pretext of creating a new authority, the government should focus on paying its debt to the VRA.
We are telling the parliamentarians that this bill that have been laid before them should not go through the necessary things. It should be withdrawn. Until, if it's not withdrawn, We'll continue demonstrating and protesting until this thing is done. We are already efficient. We are already efficient. Why do they say we are not efficient? Because they know that if they are able to pay us our dues, our debts that ECG owes, we'll be able to do more. Why are they trying to break us up?
Indeed, the Senior Staff Association of the Volta River Authority is up and up with the government and directing its anger to Parliament to do the needful to ensure that this bill does not go through. They believe that should this bill go through, it would mean the auctioning of the Volta River Authority to the private sector, which could spell doom for the country's power sector. Reporting from the head office of the Volta River Authority here in Accra, my name is Carlos Caloni for JoyNews.
Now, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has joined calls for residents in Northern Region to desist from using substandard meters. According to the PRC, the Northern Electricity Distribution Company Limited has discovered 800 substandard meters in use in the area, heightening concerns of stakeholders. Now, speaking on the sidelines of a program held for journalists by the regulator, the Northern Regional Manager of the PRC, Simon Ali Jarana, said these substandard meters are disasters in the making.
PURC in the Northern Region in recent times has held several public engagements to help educate the residents on their responsibilities, their rights, and how to seek redress. As part of this initiative, the Commission met with journalists to educate them on the capital contribution policy as enshrined in Regulation 22 of the LI 2413. Speaking to Joy News on the sideline of the program, the regional manager of the PURC, Simon Ali Jarana, said several of the fires in the country are caused by these substandard meters.
We have created a number of platforms to receive complaints from either the distribution utilities, regulated utilities, i.e. Ghana Water, and then that of NETCO in the northern part of the country. These platforms include, we have our email addresses that a lot of customers send message, their complaints to us regarding quality of service and what have you. Then we also have a lot of complaints that come through mainstream phone in. We receive complaints regarding quality of service, disruption of service, illegal connections, if you like, what they call it, unjustifiable or inappropriate disconnections.
He said the PURC in the first 2 quarters of the year have received about 900 complaints from customers of NETCO and the Ghana Water Company Limited.
Now, staff of the Volta River Authority, Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NETCO, have strongly kicked against proposals by government to merge NETCO with ECG, stating it will not inure to the benefit of the customers and the staff. At a meeting in Wa, representative of the senior staff of VRA NETCO in the Upper West area, Wonderlin Komlache, noted that the proposed merger will increase the cost of electricity in the country and called on government to rescind its decision. JoyNews Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
The staff, wearing red hand and headbands, rejected a proposed bill to merge the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NETCO, with the Electricity Company of Ghana, stating that it will not inure to the benefit of the former. Union chairman of the Upper West Regions area of VRA NETCO, Rashid Dodo, laid bare what is contained on the proposed bill.
New company coming to force. It means we are all employees of the new company now. So what happens to us? What's our fate? There's nothing like MOU, nothing for us to understand whether your number of years served is still continuing with the new company or you are starting afresh. There's nothing.
Representative of the Senior Staff Association of the VRA NETCO, Wonderlin Komlache, opined that the merger is not a solution to the power distribution challenges in the country.
The current thermal sales to ECG from VRA thermal is 19 Ghana cedis per kilowatt hour, while the private persons or the IPPs are selling 40 Ghana cedis per kilowatt hour. So compare the two, And if they are telling us that they want to privatize it so that it will be more affordable, 19 Ghana cedis per kilowatt hour and 40 Ghana cedis per kilowatt hour, which one is more affordable? How does merging ECG and NEDCO reduce high distribution losses? How does merging ECG and NEDCO resolve power or poor revenue collections?
The case of VRA and NEDCO in the Upper West region are strongly kicking against the proposed merger between the NEDCO and the ECG. I'm telling you, to merge as any that one, it won't happen. It will never happen today, it will happen tomorrow. We will fight it.
Once they privatize the thermal, the cost will rather increase, and that is going to put more burden on Ghanaians. So we want to protect the interests of Ghanaians.
Important for JoyNews. Rafik Salam.
Well, let's do election headquarters now, and that is brought to you by Petrosol Platinum Energy, energizing dreams, and also brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, also by the German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy, Dental Wellness and Beauty, Chopbox Technologies, a convenience service, and Youth Bridge Foundation, bridging the gap for positive youth development. And tonight we're beginning from the Electoral Commission, because balloting has been done for the presidential candidate of the various political parties, plus the independent candidate, and the parties have already begun reacting to that, my colleague. And then again, the Electoral Commission has also been reacting to the disqualification of some of the candidates. James Aveji has been there the whole day, and he joins me in the studio with details of exactly what transpired. James, let's start off with the balloting. What went on? But there were a lot of issues, so let's start from what exactly happened.
Okay, let's start from the chaos, and then we'll come back to how the political parties are lying on the ballot paper. And so this afternoon, the first part of the EC engagement was to update us on what went into the qualification and the disqualification of the 13 and 11 candidates. And as for the 13 that have qualified, some of them had some infractions like the incompletion of forms, as well as petty issues that they needed to address. Per the EC's arrangement, they were informed about that, and then they went ahead to address all of that. And so letting the EC to qualify the 13. For the 11 others who were disqualified, the EC said they were also informed about some of the infractions. For instance, they said some of the aspirants use the details of those, you know, that they are supposed to be endorsed by 2 persons from every district across the country. And so some of them use the details of some persons from one district for others in other districts, which are errors that have occurred. And so they were informed some didn't provide their tax clearance, others didn't complete some of the forms. For instance, in the case of Bernard Mona, he completed only one of the forms entirely. For the rest of the 4, he hasn't completed, and the rest also contain the other errors. And so that is the first side of the engagement. Then the balloting came. The EC decided to do the balloting in 2 folds. First is to ballot for the candidates who are coming on the back of the political parties, which are 9 of them, and then 4 independent candidates, which kickstart the disagreement. Alan Kojo-Chirema thinks Yao Bobieng Asamoah, as well as Cheddar,
Nana Kwame
Bediako Cheddar raised objections to that. They think that it is discriminatory, it is segregation, as well as unfairness to the other independent candidate. But the EC stood its grounds and say that that is their internal process, and it has become the norm over the years. And so there's nothing they can do about it now, but going into the future. And so they agree that the process should continue. Then they had to do 2 different balloting. One is to decide who ballot first for the final balloting. And so it comes in the form of how they have submitted their forms. The MPP balloted first, they took the first position, and then the rest followed. Then at the end of the first one to the second balloting, the NDC's Dr. Manibuama raised the objection to the size of the balls that contained the numbers for the balloting. He said one of them is smaller than the others, which could lead to some form of discrimination or giving tip to others in the And so there was the back and forth. That's where we saw Nana Kwame Bediako storming out of the conference room, brought back, exchange of words, tempest rose, and then they finally calmed down for it. Then it was now agreed that because there's a smaller ball in there, the ball should not be placed in a transparent bowl like they use, but should be placed in a translucent material. And so Kofi Akpaloo ordered for a green polythene bag to be brought, and that green polythene bag was brought, but there was another disagreement. We can listen to Director of Elections for the NPP, Evans Nimako, as well as the others, Georgia, on whether that green polythene bag should be adopted or not.
Party pick number one. Receiving the same ball, the balls were not swallowed.
The balls were in the bowl, in a transparent bowl, Now you prefer an opaque polythene bag. The new Patriotic Party will not be part of that. Will not be part of that.
Okay, please. Okay, Mr. Nimaku. Mr. General Secretary, okay. Please.
Afraid.
It's okay, we need to make progress. No, please.
Afraid. It's not part of me.
Mr. Please. Mr. Nimaku. Mr. Nimaku.
Hello.
Oh, Mr. Nimaku.
Are you a media person? Why are you videoing me?
Please.
You don't want this bowl. You want
please.
Polythene, and that is transparent.
Actually, it's what to make sure you don't pay Please, Mr. Note.
You are talking about NDC.
Mr. Note.
Why has NDC
Joe.
He can't be here. He's not supposed to be here. He's not supposed to be here. Come on. What is the best? We are two party.
Please.
I'm not scared of anything. You are afraid. I'm afraid of you. I'm afraid of you. You're afraid of you. But I went here.
Please. Jerry, it's also please. We need to make progress. Please. We need to make progress. Please.
Now he's saying he's the bodyguard.
Now, a lot of issues there. But James, how was this resolved?
So finally, all of the parties came to a compromise that the green polythene should be used, and then they went ahead and did the balloting.
Okay.
And incidentally, the NPP, which picked the first position for the balloting, ended up picking the first position on the ballot paper. And so what it means is, on December 7, if you go to the polls, Dr. Baumia is at the first position. The GCPP is at the second position. Then Ghana Freedom Party, Ekwadonko, is at the third position, followed by Ghana Union Movement, Andrews Kobina, at the fourth position. LPG's Kofi Akpaloo is at the fifth position. The NDP, the National Democratic Party, Dr.
Nana
Ajiman Rawlings' party would be at the sixth position. The CPP is at the seventh position. NDC is at the eighth position. They have an interesting interpretation of that, which I'll tell you later. Then the APC's Hassan Ayariga is at the ninth position. Then the independent candidate follow. Kofi Kranting is at the 10th position. John Chumberima at 11th. Kwame Bediako Cheddar is at the number 12th position. And then Alan Kojo Tremating, whose Yawa Boabian Sama told us that he objected because he's come to pick the first position, is now okay with the 13th position, calling it the Asieho position.
I was going to tell you, because this is a person who is coming from is believed to be coming from the John Ejekunkufor, line in the MPP. You remember in the 2000 election, there was the Asieho mantra. So really,
and so this is, and they believe it will give them a victory. But we can hear from the NDC's General Secretary, Fifi Kwete, on what they make out of the whole process and what the number 8 actually mean for the John Dramani Mahama campaign and on the election day.
Saying that we clearly made an effort to make sure the second round, at least some proper transparency was done. And all of us had agreed But it was obvious the MPP clearly did not want to. That's why you saw, even though every single one of the, out of the 9, 8 people went and nobody looked into the boss, because we wanted to ensure that no advantage is given by way of viewing and choosing what you want. But MPP, as usual, decided to do what MPP does, which is basically going against what you call norms, going against convention, going against agreements.
Have you served your party well? Because the boss came first, you inspected the boss, gave it a green light, it goes around, they picked one.
Yeah, but that's the more reason why we insisted that for the second time, nobody has an advantage. I mean, you must appreciate that for the first one, it is very possible that after the inspection,
all right, so that is the 50-50 equity there. But earlier, the EC also then tried to explain the basis for the disqualifications. We know that they've disqualified about 11 people. Yes. And the EC, what reason did the EC chairperson give?
So some of these candidates have endorsement details of the 2 various persons who are supposed to endorse them from the 216 districts. And so, for instance, my details of South Tong district, which I have used to endorse you, was shared for another person from Central Tong, the same detail. And that came across a number of the persons who have endorsed the candidate. Others couldn't provide information of their running mates. Others couldn't get tax clearance and all of that. And so, but what cut across for almost all the 11 of the candidates is about the fact that the endorsement details of some of the persons who endorsed them has been shared for others, which I don't know whether they were thinking the EC wouldn't do due diligence to detect that, which the EC did, and give them the time to provide those details. They couldn't meet, and so leading to their disqualification.
But several of the parties who have been speaking to us say they will go to court to compel the EC to do the right thing. We will be monitoring to see what the parties do. I mean, PPP is saying clearly that they will go to court to compel the EC to correct the anomaly. Bernard Mono of the PNC is also saying that he will also go to court to compel the EC to do the right thing. But away from that, running mate of the Movement for Change, Kwame Owusu-Danso, has urged Ghanaians to reject both the NPP and the NDC. He accused both major political parties of years of economic mismanagement, which he says has left the country struggling with high inflation, unemployment, and a widening gap between the rich and the poor. The following report has more.
In his appeal to voters during his official unveiling, Kwame Danso stressed that the Movement for Change represents a new way forward and will deliver the economic reforms necessary to improve the lives of ordinary Guineans. He criticized the policies of the NDC and MPP as being insufficient to lift ordinary citizens out of economic hardship, arguing that the entrenched political elites have lost touch with the realities faced by the majority of Guineans.
Under the late Professor John Evans Atamils, Ghana's economy saw some impressive growth, bolstered by oil revenue, achieving a growth rate of 14.3%. However, after his passing, the economy deteriorated under former President John Dramani Mahama, who, facing some challenges to the country, to the IMF, when growth had plummeted to 3.4%. This led to Ghanaians rejecting his bid for a second term. Unfortunately, in the last decade, the economic situation has worsened, with macroeconomic indicators deteriorating further under the leadership of President Nana Addo and Vice President Bawumia.
Leader of the Movement for Change, Alan Kyerematen, said he has fulfilled his promise of nominating a young person as his running mate and was confident of victory in December.
On the 13th of August this year, at a media encounter with you friends of the media, I also made a commitment that my vice presidential nominee will be a young person. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to note that this morning I'm about to fulfill all those commitments that I made.
Alan Kyerematen was one of 13 candidates approved by the Electoral Commission to contest in the December polls.
Is JoyNews Prime. We'll take a break here. I'll be back with more. Please do stay. Welcome back from the break. Now, President of the National Inland Canoe Fishermen Council, Jacob Kabori Tete Agike, has revealed the inland fishery sector is being threatened by illegal mining activities, warning of imminent fish stock declines. According to him, fisherfolk on the Black Volta in the Savannah region are chased away by illegal miners to allow them to mine on the water body. Mr. Tete Agike explains, despite efforts to ward off the miners, they continue to ravage the water body. The situation, he says, is denying the fishers their daily source of livelihood. He was speaking on the sidelines of a stakeholder meeting in Kumasi on reviewing the new Fisheries Act.
For quite some time, fish farming, the bulk of fish farming was taking place in the Volta Lake area. That was tilapia. In recent years, the last few years, catfish farming has become very prominent, especially in parts of the Ashanti region there, like the Amansie East. Catfish is showing great promise. Unfortunately, this is the very area where illegal mining is taking place. And some of the farms, the farmers come and they half baiting you, half threatening you. Get off. They offer very attractive inducements. They offer a very attractive amounts of money for you to leave your farm and let them come and do the calamity.
Meanwhile, in the Ashanti region, aquaculture farmers in the Amansie East district are bemoaning the activities of illegal small-scale mining. National organizer of the Ghana National Aquaculture Association, Francis Dihia, says catfish farmers in the area are threatened by the miners to evacuate their site for the illegal activities.
The catches have reduced, and even some of the illegal miners are using weapons to make sure that people even move out from their communities. Sometimes even the fishing grounds, and when we land or around the Black Volta, the places where they mined, on the Savannah, that is the Banda side and the Savannah areas, on the Black Volta, they actually use weapons to even make sure that our people who live in the communities leave the area for them to mind. The fish that will grow for us to catch, they died 3-6 months ago, a year ago. So the resources is reducing, and so the illegal mining is affecting us greatly. It's because the lake is vast. You are not seeing the stability of the water.
A group of 6 civil society groups say they have discovered the issuance of licenses to mining companies to enter forest reserve without recourse to the biodiversity significance of the green belt. The groups say they have already filed a civil case in which they are demanding the court to ultimately repeal legislative instrument 2462, which gives powers to the president to permit mining in forest reserves across the country. The environmentalists say the continuous degradation of green zones poses a significant threat to areas of global significant biodiversity sport, forcing them to take proactive measures, including the legal measures. Dario Bosu is the Deputy National Director of Arocha Ghana. He speaks for the CSOs taking this class action.
Arocha Ghana, together with 6 civil society organizations, are expressing worry that the Minerals Commission is still accepting applications from companies who intend to mine in forest reserves. At a news conference in Accra, the group explained that the problem stems from the passage of a legislative instrument 2462, which gives power to the president to authorize mining in biodiversity hotspots.
I'm sure you recently saw a video documentary by Erastus that shows you the extent of the degradation that's already going on as a result of prospecting that is going on there. Now, furthermore, the Minerals Commission is still accepting applications to mine in forest reserves as recently as August 2024. Our case challenges the legality of the Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserves Regulations 2022, that's LI 2462, which we believed were laid in Parliament without the mandatory fiscal impact analysis.
To curb the imminent threat to Ghana's forest reserves, the environmentalist groups are ultimately calling for the repeal of LI 2462, which they argue goes contrary to other minerals and mining laws of the country.
In violation of the Public Financial Management Act 2016 Act 921. This failure to follow due process renders the regulations null and void. Furthermore, we contend that the said LI 2462 is inconsistent with the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, and the Forest Act 1927, Cap 157, which expressly prohibits the granting of mineral rights in forest reserves. Additionally, the LI is a bad law. It contradicts Ghana's progressive framework for natural resource management for the last 25 years, and it erodes protection for forest reserves in Ghana. We are also asking the High Court to grant an interlocutory injunction to halt the issuance of any further permits or licenses under the disputed LI 2462 regulations allowing mining activities in forest reserves. In the meantime,
the 7 civil groups say they are in close consultations with their lawyers to injunct any further entry into forest reserves until a final determination is made on the matter. Blessed Sugan's report for Joy News, Accra.
Now, a grieving father, Enoch Bote Saki, has expressed his deep anguish and desire for justice after his son was tragically stabbed to death by a fellow student, Gordon Mauli. In an emotional interview with Adom News reporter Kojo Mensah Brampa, Mr. Saki confessed that whenever he sees Gordon in court, he wishes there were no laws to prevent him from seeking revenge. However, he acknowledges the importance of letting the law take its course.
Yeah, as a family, I think we are now okay because the problem with us is concerning the age. And now the age has been confirmed. That is 19 years. We are okay. That means the law can deal with him so that justice will be done. I'll give the court the patience because there is nothing I can do without the court. So wait till justice is done.
As a father, seeing him in court, how does that make you feel? I know it's very difficult for the family, but anytime you see him, what goes through your mind?
I wish there's no law so that I can also take revenge for my son. As long as there's a law, I have to hold my heart and follow the process.
Now, former Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Jones Doche, says there is an urgent need to amend the Constitution to change the requirement to appoint a majority of ministers from Parliament. According to the former judge, either all ministers must come from Parliament or none. He also wants the wide jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to be reviewed downward to reduce the caseload on the apex court. He was speaking at a meeting on the stakeholders' consultations on the review of the Constitution organized by the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs.
One of the key issues of this particular Constitution is the issue of some percentage of ministers coming from Parliament. I think that is one of the most important issues we have in this Constitution that needs to be tackled. And we have to decide whether we want all our ministers to come from Parliament or to be outside Parliament. This hybrid for me will not work. We have been talking a lot about Supreme Court appointments, capping the Supreme Court. Having just exited the court, I know that my colleagues will do a yeoman's job because the Constitution has given them too many jurisdictions, too many. And my younger brother who is here will bear me out. So the Constitution has to look at maybe reducing the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. You can limit some of the civil appeals that start from the district court to end at the Court of Appeal in land cases and other criminal cases so that the Supreme Court exists for constitutional cases and other very serious issues. So if you do that, then you can cap the Supreme Court. But aside that, then you are just trying to make the impossible possible, because they stretch themselves to do what I consider very impossible. You can be given 25, 30 briefs to just go over a weekend and come and see the following week. And it's really telling on the health of the judges. So, and I know there are distinguished lawyers there who practice in the court, Kofi Bentil, Samson, Madam Chair herself, and so on and so forth. So we have to do this thing dispassionately without partisan considerations. If we do that, we will come out with very, very good decisions.
Meanwhile, Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Osei Mensah Bonsu, believes the constitutional amendment process must go ahead despite the country heading towards an election.
I've heard people opine that in an election year, there's not much that can be done when it comes to constitutional amendment. With the greatest respect, I beg to differ. All the amendments to the 1992 Republican Constitution happened in 1996, after the election, in November and December. All the amendments happened in 1996, after the presidential and general elections. So I believe that we are not stopped by time to do the consultation that we intend to continue today.
Well, the demand for immediate implementation of the Affirmative Action Bill is growing stronger as former gender ministers celebrated a historic passage of the law. After 12 years of delays in Parliament, the long-awaited law is hailed as a turning point in the fight for gender equality and also setting the stage for increased representation of women in leadership and decision-making roles. Former gender ministers Otiko Afisa-Jaba and Nana Oye Bampoado stressed that the true victory lies in its implementation, calling on all stakeholders to act. We'll hear from them shortly, but first listen to Sheila Menka-Premo, the convener of the Affirmative Action Bill Coalition and senior lawyer who played a key role in getting the bill passed into law.
Very excited. I've been part of the team that started working in the development of this law, but from 2011 as a technical committee member. Later became a member of the coalition, sort of working from the outside to push for the passage of the law, a convener for the coalition. So I am so excited and very happy that finally we've had this law and it's been assented to by the president. I'm very excited and I'm looking forward to a very bright future where there'll be more inclusion. First of all, the law requires the setting up of a body, a special body called the Gender Equity Committee, which is like a multi-sectorial body made up of representation from a number of ministries as well as from industry, from the private sector, from CSOs. This particular body will be based at the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. They have the mandate to ensure that the law is implemented. So one of the things we'll be doing will be to come up with a plan of action.
We're going to hear from former Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Otiko Afisa-Jaba, who is also excited about the news and wants more to be done.
This is a game changer. I felt elated. It was like a birthday. Something that, you know, when you are pregnant and you are waiting for a baby.
Yeah.
You've been waiting forever. And finally, it has been passed. And I just want to thank God. And, you know, it is about Ghana. It's not only about women. Anything that is good for women is good for the nation. Because the development of a woman is directly linked to the development of the nation. So this is a big precedent. It's historic. We are living it, others are writing about it, and others will come and read about us. It's fantastic.
Another former minister, Nana Oye Bampoado, shared in the excitement, hoping for it to be swiftly implemented as well.
It is groundbreaking. When you read the bill, I know it will be updated because some amendments were proposed, but its key objective is to ensure gender equality. It has created a gender equality committee that will see through implementation. It has clearly settled or given roles to the different sectors. So the public service, it is very clear what their obligation is the security services, the judiciary, even private sector is included, and the trade unions. So we have clear roles and functions. And then in Schedule 1 of the bill, we have the quota, the quota system. So we know that in 2 years' time, from now to 2026, the minimum representation of women will be 30%.
Well, and this is how we wrap up today's bulletin. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. At 8, Pius Kojobaka will be here with Prime Business. Thanks for your time. Good evening.